morning everyone, Kathy at Northstar Prepsteader. Well, today I'm going to show you how to thin your carrots. Now some people like to plant very strategically every couple inches, you know, they go down the row, or they have a strip of carrot seeds that you can just plant the strip, and that's wonderful, that's fine. What I do is I make the row and I just sprinkle in whatever goes in there. A lot of them won't germinate, and then some others germinate in clusters. So I'm just going to go in and thin them, kind of show you how to do it, because you want to be able to allow them to have room to grow, and yet you want to be able to get as many carrots as you possibly can out of your garden. Well, I've already thinned and weeded my reds, the Kyoto reds, and you can see I have them kind of spaced apart. Some are a little bit close together, but I'm okay with that for right now. I would say I had maybe 75% germination rate on these. You can see that there's some gaps. There's a whole huge row of gaps there. There's some that are still trying to come up right in here. So overall I should have 3 to 4 dozen of the reds in this little area. And this is probably maybe 18 inches square, this particular area. So you can see I can get quite a few out of this little space. Now in this bed, you can see this back row did very, very well. They're very thick, and I think those were the oranges that I planted there. And then I did a row of yellows, which are very sparse. Those did not germinate nearly as well. And then I have the row of the mix. So just in watching how the others germinate, I have a feeling it's going to be mostly oranges and maybe a few reds. So anyway, let's get going. Okay, I have some of these are in the shade of this marigold that is growing much bigger than what I ever anticipated. So I'm actually going to trim back this marigold so that the carrots can get a little bit more sun. Let me get this stem too here. So I want these to get a little bit of sun. At some point I might need to trim this one back, but for right now it's okay. So I've got some weeds in here, as well as the little elm seeds that came in here and are growing up like crazy. So I'm going to first of all just kind of weed through here and pull these. And I just watered last night, so it makes it a little easier to pull things when the soil is wet. So when the soil is wet, not only is it easier to pull it, but it also allows the little seedlings, the little plants, to anchor in better. The ones that you want to stay in here will hold a little bit better. So get some of these weeds. So pull the weeds first, because then I can see exactly what are plants and what are weeds. So I don't want to thin thinking that one's a plant and it's not. Okay, I think this little bunch looks pretty good for weeds. Okay, at this stage, now these are on the average 3 inches high, and this is a really, really good time to thin them, because they're easy to pull and they're just establishing a single root. If your carrots, you want them to be at least 1 inch in diameter at the very least, then you want to allow probably 2 inches from center to center. Even then they would end up touching. So eventually we want the plants to be 2 inches apart. At this point they're still so little, so I don't know for sure if they're going to be able to make it or not. It depends on storms and things like that. So I'm going to thin them to probably about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. What I want to do is pick the strongest and the biggest plants to stay. So here there are 2 right next to each other. There's a little one and a big one. I'm going to save the big one, pull the little one. Now in this little bunch here, there's quite a few. There's a single one here and a single one here. So I just want to have one main one right in this bunch. So I'm going to try to look for the biggest and the strongest. I think this is going to be the one right here. So I just grab the other ones low and gently pull. You don't want to disturb the root of the one that you want to save. And no, these don't transplant well because you can see how long the roots are. If you try to transplant it, you're gonna get like a carrot that's gonna be all bent and wiggly, and if it even takes. So you don't want to transplant. So I've got one here, 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 and here. Okay, so now that I thin this out, I can see that there are two right here. So I'm gonna keep, again, the bigger one, pull the little one here. I know there's a lot of you who really struggle with pulling plants because you're going, oh, that's a live food and I don't want to do that, but carrot seeds are so little and you get a ton of them in a pack. So I'm going to keep this little one just to see how it does. And in this cluster, again, find the biggest one, and I think it's going to be that one. So I'm going to try to pull these gently. You can see the roots are already starting to establish quite well. So these have been in the ground for about 3 weeks, and they're doing really, really well. Now, normally they would just start germinating at like 14 to 21 days. I ended up having a lightweight row cover on this to try to keep the tree seeds from falling in here. And I tell you what, these things germinated within 5 days. Not only germinated, but we were up about ½ an inch. It was so crazy. So here's again a little cluster. Keep the biggest one. You want to give your carrots space because then they can grow nice and big and strong and straight. They're not going to wrap around each other. I've had that happen in the past too. So, all right, I'm just going to continue thinning out and weeding. I really wish that, you know, these big spaces in here had taken, but too late in the season now to seed them here in Minnesota, because otherwise we'll have frost before they're ready to harvest. So there, I've weeded through my carrots and thinned them out. There probably will be a second thinning because some of these are still a little bit close together in order for each root to be able to thrive and to grow nice and strong and big. So probably in another month or so. Depends on our weather, depends on everything like that, how fast they grow. This particular brand of seed I've not worked with before, so I'm not sure what to expect. But when they're starting to get big enough where they're starting to crowd each other out a little bit, yet not big enough to completely harvest, I will thin some more. The key is that you want to give each carrot root enough space to be able to grow according to its dimensions and what it's supposed to be. You want these carrots for your larder, for your pantry, whether you can them, freeze them, or just store them away in a root cellar to be able to eat fresh. You want an optimal harvest. So I'll just show you in the weeks to come what I continue to do. But now the seedlings have enough room and space to really take off and grow. Up until now, they've been a little crowded in, especially like those that were clusters, that there were maybe 8 or 10 of them in a little bunch. So those are all thinned out, you know, and I'm not sure if the carrot greens are edible or not. I've never eaten them, but if they're edible, please leave a comment below, and so people can know that when they thin their carrots, they can eat them. Mine are going into the compost at this point. So don't be afraid to thin your carrots. Don't be afraid to throw some plants away if you need to. It just allows the plants that are there to be as productive as possible, and that's really what you want. You don't want a whole row of little skinny crowded things that are just wound around each other and really not usable for anything. So you want your carrots to be really good and healthy. I'm looking forward to seeing what these particular seeds do and how they produce. I know what I've used in the past with very good luck, and I'm always willing to try new things, and so we'll see how this goes. You guys take care, God bless, and always have hope. Please like and subscribe, comment if you haven't done that before. I would really appreciate that. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.